Welcome to Genpres. We're a weekly Danish podcast. Sometimes we do it in English. Today is one of those times because the subject is English. I'm in a pub in Wimbledon, which is not bad at all. It's one of my favourite places to be honest. The Prince of Wales is the name of the pub, one of my old haunts from my time in London. When I was a regular at King's Meadow watching AFC Wimbledon. I still go, but living in Copenhagen makes it less frequent, of course. When I did, I spent most of the home games at the Camp Flow end. I ended up here, a bit of a coincidence. Family was home, having a Christmas holiday, and I went to watch a match, and I bumped into a group of lads who dragged me into their group, which was nice for me, because I used to watching football at home. And also as a football romantic, I quickly fell in love with the AFC story. In short, the story of AFC Wimbledon boils down to this. Some fuckwits, with the blessing of the FA, moved Wimbledon to Milton Keynes in 2002. Obviously, Wimbledon fans were not happy with this and started the new club, AFC, which is now by everyone acknowledged as the real Wimbledon. Since then, there's been 6 promotions in 16 years, and now Wimbledon is in the same league as MK, or the franchise bastards, as they're known here. And the two clubs met the weekend just gone. They drew 0-0. And I'm in Prince of Wales with Anthony, the lad who pulled me into Wimbledon, and Tracy, his girlfriend. Anthony's been a Wimbledon fan all his life, and obviously been part of the rebuild. So welcome. And well, firstly,
hello.
How do you two meet?
Tracy volunteers as a turnstile operator at the home terrace.
So she's the one responsible for letting you in?
Getting tickets, and obviously used to see her every week, taking my ticket. You know, used to smile. That's about it. And then one day I was drunk.
One day?
A particular day. We played Portsmouth at home. After the game, I went up to her and said, "I fancy you, but I am an idiot." And her response was, "I like idiots." And that's how it started.
That's a very honest way of meeting. I mean, at least a few things are out of the way then.
That is it.
All right, that's knowing Anthony, he's not lying, so that's good.
Some people would say that I'm punching above my weight, but I'll leave that open.
And let's start with the game just gone by.
Okay.
Anthony, you went.
Yeah.
Tracy, you didn't. Why did you not go to the franchise game?
I would never set foot in their ground.
Why is that?
It just makes my blood boil. I cannot bring myself to have anything to do with franchise.
So what do you do when Wimbledon is playing MK? What do you do?
I literally do something with my sons, so I make myself busy, and I don't want to know anything about them because it just literally does my head in. I can't even think about it.
So you wouldn't even be happy if Wimbledon won? Would you not be happy?
Oh yeah, absolutely ecstatic. And obviously
But I said, would you like me to text you how it's going? No, wouldn't let me text.
I do not want to know because
Either
I know
way,
it would really piss me off if they're beating us. So, because obviously I was there at all the protests at Sellers Park and everything, and it just makes my blood boil. So.
You did go?
Yeah.
What was it like? What was the atmosphere like? Not full of love, I know.
It's like first of all, it's not a derby, yeah? It's not a derby.
Even though Sky is trying to make it into
It's not a derby, you know. The derby is local, like Copenhagen derby, Brøndby, Copenhagen. That's a derby. This is just hatred, okay, because of how things came about. So I just want to make that point. It's not a derby, and don't let anyone believe you it's a derby. But like Brøndby Copenhagen games, I don't believe anyone enjoys these games because there's too much riding on it. If you lose, you know, most people are just happy to get the game over and done with. So it's never nice going to Milton Keynes. I don't look forward to it. However, I can't miss it for the chance that if we beat them, I have to be there.
Tracy can't go and you can't miss it.
I can't miss it. If we win, I have to be there. If I was sitting at home and we won, obviously I'll be happy, but at every opportunity I need to let them know who they are, what they are. They're a disgrace.
Yeah, what are your feelings towards them? Is it? I've spoken to some fans who they don't. You sound like one of them. You don't actually. Well, the way you talk about them, Tracy, you don't acknowledge their existence. I'm gathering.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Is it hate or is it just they shouldn't be there?
They shouldn't be there. They stole our club. Everything. It's just we were trying everything for that. Obviously, not to go through, and they stole something and kept part of our name. And they shouldn't.
Is that one of the parts that hurts the most, the Dons thing?
Yeah.
For me, that still hurts because people still confuse us.
Some people don't want them to lose it, the Dons, because it's a reminder of what they've done. But I'll always remember, it doesn't matter whether they're called Dons or not, I'll always remember, that's good enough for me. They need to lose it. What have they got to do with Wimbledon? They've got nothing to do with Wimbledon. At the end of the day, I think that I'll give you an example. The policeman came up to me on Saturday and said, what would you do if you saw an 8-year-old Milton Keynes fan? He doesn't know anything. Yeah, he doesn't know anything. Okay? I said to the policeman, and this is what I believe, I've got nothing against that 8-year-old who's in his head supporting his local team, but his dad has no morals, and that's how I look at it. Okay, every Milton Keynes fan supported another club before Wimbledon came along. Now that is basically their support. They're as plastic as anything can be. There's clubs all over Europe like that. You've got the Red Bull franchises and things like that. And this club is the pariah. They actually revel in being like that. And that's the worst thing. They actually antagonise us. They're deluded. One of the worst things about it is they had this white elephant of a stadium, 32,000 seater stadium. They give tickets away for free every week. They sell tickets for 10 quid, right? And then they count those in the attendance whether they turn up or not. So everyone says, oh, we have average crowds of 10,000, we've got good support. But actually, in their stadium, they have 4,000-5,000, including the away fans. On Saturday, they announced attendance of 9,500. There was probably no more than 5 in there.
How are they allowed to do that?
It's a given practice that in England you count the attendance as sold tickets.
Okay, so just give out 20,000 and then you're sold.
But that normally means season ticket holders and things like that. But what franchise actually do is they give away tickets to schools and they count those as well.
Okay.
That's not normal.
No, it wouldn't be. We're going to try and get the mood into something more positive. Enough about them.
Yeah.
Those unmentionables. Well, why did you guys originally become Wimbledon supporters? Let's start with you.
Two of my uncles were stewards at Plough Lane, and we grew up on Plough Lane. So I went along with my uncles.
The neighbour of the ground.
Yeah. So got swept along by that. And obviously, having children, there was times, over the years I didn't go, but then obviously back to Selhurst, and then when it all started up with AFC. So it's in the blood.
What do you think?
My first game was 1983. I was 9 years old, and it was just my local team. I think we're in the old Division 3, and the only thing I can remember about that game is obviously the score, but I also remember the smell of liniment that the players put on their legs, the the deep heat, and I've always liked the smell of deep heat ever since then. That might sound perverted, but it's not. It's just I like the smell. But since 1984, I bought my first season ticket. I've had a season ticket ever since. Yeah, it's just a local team.
Out of all those years, old Wimbledon, I don't like to say new Wimbledon, but since the rebirth, what are your biggest memories?
Stains away.
I think we've had some games where there's watershed moments. If you're talking new, I see Wimbledon, the way I see football, it's not about, the way I see a football club, it's not about the team, the players, the management, the back staff. It's about who you go to football with. And the people I go to football with today are the same people I went to football with in 1983. It's about the fans, you know what I mean? So they're the only people that stay. Players' contracts finish and they go to another team. The only loyal bit of the team is the supporters. So, but there's been, so in the new Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, Staines was one of those games where if we didn't go up that season, it would have taken, we had all those promotions, but we were 1-0 down with about 10 minutes to go to Staines. And we made a substitution and we got a lucky equalised, didn't we? And then we scored with about 4 minutes to go. And it was just amazing that day. It was amazing at Staines. So that was a good memory. The old Wimbledon, obviously people say the cup final, 1988, but I was only 14 years old. I wasn't really drinking.
That means you might remember something.
Yeah, but if it happened now, you wouldn't see me, would you? You wouldn't see me for a couple of weeks. I think I just went home and watched it on Match of the Day. But yeah, obviously the cup final stands out. And this is the thing, is that going back to Milton Keynes, they say that they're the Wimbledon. Probably 0.1% of their crowd were at that cup final, and if they were, they're probably Liverpool fans. And I think that tells the story itself.
To stay with them, when it dawned on you guys that this is happening, the FA doing a major fuck up, what did you feel? What did you think?
Well, I remember the day it happened. I was working in the city and I heard a whisper that it might be not going our way. So I made my excuse at work and went down to the FA at Soho Square, and it got announced that they were allowing the move. And my overriding feeling at the time was shock that they allowed it to happen. There was not a lot of anger. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, you spend 25 years following a club and it's gone. And that, obviously there's people crying and stuff like that. But I don't think people understand what it's like until it ever happened to them. I don't think people can understand until it happens.
And very quickly, like the minute after pretty much, or like the day after, the idea of AFC Wimbledon was rolled out very quickly. Were you on board with it straight away?
I mean, this is where credit's got to go to people like Ivor credit's got to go to people like Mark Jones, Chris Stewart, the people that dragged everyone off the floor. Because it would have been very easy to just curl up into a ball and not go to football. I mean, Charles Koppel, when it happened, said, "You'll all support Fulham anyway. You'll end up supporting Fulham." He actually said that. And I remember being in the community centre just across the road, and the passion, there was, standing room only. And I still remember Chris Stewart's speech about he just wanted to watch football. I know it sounds a bit chummy, but it dragged everyone off the floor, and it gave people renewed enthusiasm for football again. Do you know what I mean? And obviously the Sutton game was a realisation that this could be big. The first game was Sutton United away, and it didn't matter that we lost. Obviously it was the first game, but there was 4,500 there, and you just knew how big it could be. I remember I came back from a holiday on a Saturday morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was trials happening at Wimbledon Common that day, and I went straight from the airport, dumped my cases, and went down the Common. I don't know what I was
Not
do.
to try out.
Not to try, or no. I mean, I don't know, I just went down there because I wanted to be part of, I don't know, put cones out or something, I didn't care. I just went down there. And I don't know, I suppose you just want to be part of it. And I think a lot of people had that. And it snowballed from there.
Were you guys surprised how many people showed up instantly for the games in the 9th tier, where you're playing away games at grounds that aren't really grounds, but a football pitch with a fence around it? Were you surprised?
It's like part of a park or something. It just didn't look real, definitely. And a couple of people that I used to go with, when they said about forming AFC, and they were going, "Oh, I'm not going because it's just going to be like a Sunday League side.
Yeah.
It's just going to be crap."
Yeah, people have come back since we got in the Football League.
Yeah.
There'll be more people that come back when we were back at Plough Lane.
Yeah. Because at the time, no one believed it could happen, did they?
Are you surprised?
Started from scratch.
Are you surprised how quick it went from to where we are now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how quickly everyone got on board.
The only model for it really was Aldershot. Aldershot fell out of the league. They had a decent support, but they took ages to get back. They're still not back. They got back in, but that was the only model. We're the first ones that. But it was a really proud moment when we went up at Manchester. It was obviously you got to celebrate your own success, but it just proved franchise wrong. Their strapline was they couldn't wait. They had to have league football immediately. And the fact is that they've wasted it. They could have developed a non-league club, done it properly, and they'd have the respect. And they chose not to do that, and that's why they got no respect within football.
I'm now meeting Ivor Heller, commercial director at AFC Wimbledon. He started the club with a few other people from the bottom, the 9th tier, after the original club was moved to Milton Keynes, the capital of roundabouts. I've been there. It's not the best place in the world, to be honest. The stadium is next to an IKEA and an Asda. It's a bit like an American suburban hell. Anyway, another key player is Eric Samuelson. He has a past in PricewaterhouseCoopers and also a Wimbledon fan for many years. When he started as a chairman of the club, which he still is, he was and still is paid £1 guinea a year, apparently because he thought it sounded posher than a pound. I don't know if that's an urban legend. We'll ask Ivor about that in a minute. So he's basically working for free, and because he can do that with his former jobs. And as far as I know, he still goes to the away games with normal trains like other fans. I've heard that anyway. It's a very different club. There's not a lot of shrimp cocktails and champagne here. So, Ivor Heller, commercial director, you must be making loads of money then.
No, there's nobody, including the players, make loads of money out of us, that's for sure.
Oh, I know. I'm teasing Ivor here.
Yeah, no.
Because I know that you and others have sacrificed a lot for actually rebuilding this club. Can you tell us your own story? Because I read somewhere you lost quite a few, well, a lot of things for getting into this.
The truth of it is that most of the things that I lost, I bought on myself, because I was more interested in working in the football club and following the football club and running things around the club than I was in running my business. Although I thought there were one or two people that could have helped me more than they did, there were some issues. Not just brought on by the club though. There was a horrible economic situation in the country. There were all sorts of other reasons that things happened there. So I don't blame the club for that. I blame myself.
You made a clear choice though.
I made a very clear choice. Yeah. The club and this club means everything to me, as it does to many people. And I therefore decided that, not necessarily consciously, but I would just sacrifice everything for the club. That's it, really. Yeah, the club I would put the club above most other things.
And still do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any regrets on that here? Like how many years after? 15, 16 years after?
It was 2002. Yeah. So this is our 16th season. So no regrets whatsoever. I mean, what we've managed to concoct from absolutely nothing, from a ground level zero, what we've managed to come up with is something very special. It's very neat. People respect us for what we've done. We've grown something that is going to be embedded in its own community again, as it should always have done. And by the time we get there, it will have been 29 years since we last had a home game. That's just incredible.
And let's go back to 2002. How was it to rebuild everything from scratch?
I don't think it was viewed necessarily as a rebuilding process. It was a I like to term it as a genesis. Whereas the idea was there. It was quite an obvious idea, really, if you actually think about it. They moved our football club 70, 80 miles up the road. We weren't prepared to call ourselves then, and we were never going to be associated with that town. So it was quite an obvious decision to try and start again. That what actually happened, and the reason things happened the way they did, was we got very lucky. We got very, very lucky. The night before the decision, I got a call from someone in the FA, someone high up that would know, and they actually said to me, Ivor, just so you know, off the record, you've lost. They're going to let Wimbledon move to Milton Keynes. And
how was that lucky?
Well, because I got it the night before.
Okay.
So on the 27th of May, that evening, I knew that we'd lost. So, whilst my plans on that Monday, were to go to Soho Square and demonstrate with everybody else and make a noise and, hopefully get the result that we wanted. But somewhere deep inside, I kind of half expected not to. So I'd started to lay a couple of loose plans. Whereas I'd basically talked to Trevor Williams, Mark Jones, and said, if this goes wrong, we're going to have to get cracking straight away. Because it was my opinion, and I don't know what other people thought about it, but it was my opinion that if we didn't get started that next season, we would lose momentum and probably never get started. Say never, we would have got started, but it would never have been the same. We wouldn't have had that same righteous indignation. People would have got out of the habit of going to football. There would have been all sorts of things that would have happened that would have made it much harder to get to where we got to now. So, when I found that out, I phoned Trevor and I phoned Mark, and I phoned Chris Stewart. And when I spoke to those guys, it was like I'm not going to go to Soho Square and make a noise and shout at the FA and maybe do things I might regret later. I'm going to get started on what we need to do to get this club started again. and I'd be very happy if you guys would join me. Except to Chris, who I said to him quite clearly, as the chairman of WISA, of the Independent Supporters Association, he had to go to Soho Square and do his thing. He had to be seen to lead the troops on that one, but while he was doing that, we would be busy starting the club. And then my comment to him was, we need to see you here the next day at like 9:30 in the morning, and in my opinion he should be the chairman of the new club. And that all happened on the 27th. On the 28th, myself, Mark and Trevor got together, and we started talking about what we needed to do. Mark was a designer by trade, and he started designing things straight away, because we knew that we had the AGM on the Thursday, the WISA AGM, and we knew that we had to be ready to win the argument. We had to win the argument that night. At 11 o'clock the next day, the decision became public, and we started to hear all the reports of things that were happening up there. But we, by then, had advice on people to speak to and started speaking to people. And in point of fact, the most important phone call of that day was to a guy called David Folkes at the London FA. And he was delighted to speak to us. And what he said was, they were based in Lewisham, you see. So he said, to get into a league, we had to get senior status. To get senior status, we had to have a ground with a minimum of a 3-year deal.
Which you didn't have.
Which we didn't have at all. We had no money, we had nothing. Right? They're the real basics. Once you've got the ground deal and the senior status, you can then go on and try to get into a league. And that will happen starting at, as you say, it was actually level 8 then, it became level 9 the next year.
Oh, okay.
But that's regardless, really. So he said to me, could we get someone to pick the form up the next morning, get it to us, fill the form out, and then he'd come and meet us to fill the form out with us once we've looked at it and done our bits and pieces. Okay, we can do that. He told us we had to form a limited company. Yeah. So what basically happened, by the end of that day, we'd talked to several different stakeholders. We'd talked to leagues. We'd talked to the FA. We basically had a road plan for what we had to do. The big problem was that the meeting with the London FA was on the, I'm fairly sure it was the 12th of June. It might have been the 10th of June, but the 12th of June rings a loud bell with me. So from the AGM, we had very, very little time to get a ground share deal. So it's impossible, really, isn't it? It sounds impossible. Yeah. We hadn't even talked to anybody yet. So the next day, Niall got the form from London FA, brought it to us. We looked at the form, filled out what we could, had the appointment with David Folkes. I think it might have been that afternoon that he actually came in. And he sat there with Chris Stewart and I. And I shall never forget this as long as I live. This was one of my favourite bits of the whole genesis of the club. He turned around and said to us, first of all, what name do you want to be called? So we came up with the obvious name. This was more Mark's doing than anybody else's, in my opinion. But Mark, I thought it was very funny. We wanted to be called Real Wimbledon. Real Wimbledon.
Yeah. They didn't, but they weren't.
They weren't biting on that one. They weren't going to let us be called Real Wimbledon.
Oh, that would have been good.
Well, it would have been good, but it also actually it would have been a constant.
Yeah.
You know, and then we said, okay, we want FC Wimbledon. No, it's too much like Wimbledon FC is right now. And I still don't understand this to this day, but I can remember there'd been a non-league club that was coming to some kind of prominence. They'd been doing really well in the real lower echelons and made a bit of a noise called AFC Sudbury. And I knew there was AFC Bournemouth and AFC Sunderland, and So I said, well, why don't we just call ourselves AFC Wimbledon? And he said, yep, done. And I said, brilliant. What does AFC stand for? And he said, absolutely nothing. That's absolutely true. AFC Wimbledon. What's the AFC stand for? Nothing.
Normally it's like Associated Football Club or something, or Athletic Football Club,
Yep.
but
Yep.
not here.
No, and that made me belly laugh, and I still remember it very fondly. And then the next best bit of the whole thing was that then he turned around and said, okay, date formed. And Chris Stewart and I, at exactly the same time, said 1889. That's when Wimbledon Football Club started, 1889. And he's gone, right, 1889. So on our registration form with the London FA, formation date is 1889.
So
And that is always my argument when people say, oh, you're a continuation. I said, well, we started in 1889.
Yeah, the whole continuation discussion was going on for a few years, wasn't it? Where MK kind of was holding on to it, but they gave up at some stage and sent the trophies to Wimbledon.
Yep, we got everything back.
Yeah.
All the patrimony, the lot, came back to Merton. Can only be on display in Merton. So when we get our new stadium, boom, we'll have all our patrimony.
Yeah, it's in the
back.
library now, isn't it?
Bits of it are in the library. There's loads more than what's on show in the library.
And explain quickly the process then, because now you had a club, you needed a team as well. I mean,
Well, well, we needed a ground first, because to get the senior status, we had to get the ground.
how did you do that?
Well, lots of people put their oar into this. Lots of people were trying to tell us where we should go, and loads of people had connections to this and connections to that, connections to the other.
And what was what options were there? Because I mean, obviously you couldn't move too far away because the whole idea of
Well, that was the whole thing. There were people that had connections to Dulwich. There were people that had connections to Leatherhead. Some were suggesting Sutton. Some were saying Tooting and Mitcham. But they were all no-goes for lots of different reasons. The best option from day one was Kings Meadow. First of all, it was only a mile and a half outside the borough. It was much more part of our conurbation than any of the others. Tooting and Mitcham, you would say, would have been closer, but it was nowhere near big enough. And we would never have been able to get the crowds in there. But the public transport, the infrastructure of that ground was nowhere near up to scratch for what we would have needed. So that would have caused us huge problems. And I felt that right from day one. So I was pretty belligerent about this. The amazing thing is, and it played a massive part in our history, was the guy that owned Kingstonians at the time and owned Kings Meadow was a guy called Rajesh Khosla. And he was an interesting character. I got on very well with Mr. Khosla, but it seems I was the only one that did. We approached him. He said, let's have a meeting. He asked how many people I thought we would get. I said, well, I think we get at least 1,000 people a match, which I had no idea.
Yeah, it was more.
It was a lot more than that. But I had no idea. You couldn't. Everyone said I was mad for saying that. A team that was going to go into the lowest level of non-league football, saying they were going to get 1,000 a week was pretty stupid, really. But I mean, I did genuinely think that because I was a Wimbledon fan when we were non-league first time round, you see. So I had the memories of, well, even when we were doing absolutely appallingly and going nowhere, the club was really struggling, we used to get 1,100 people, and we were awful. Now we would go in at this level and we would win leagues and we would win cups and we would have a lot of fun, and that would bring crowds in. I felt it would bring crowds in. So I said to him, oh, it'll be 1,000. His answer to that, well, you could just see pound signs going around in his eyes, because he's like, well, that's 1,000 people that are going to come and drink in my bar. And I can't get 1,000 people for Kingstonians, and I can't get. He basically had 5 teams playing on that pitch at the time.
Okay.
He was a greedy man. I don't think he'd even mind me saying that, because I got on really well with him, and he was a lot about money. He'd bought Kingstonians from the administrators when they went bust, and the administrators did a diabolical thing to a football club. They separated the football club from the asset of the ground. As soon as you do that,
you've seen that before. Palace, other places.
Yeah. As soon as that happens, the football club's going to have a lot of problems getting back on earth.
Yeah.
So it proved to be.
So the ground was sorted. You ground shared. You ended up buying the ground.
Yeah, that's
later.
right. Yeah.
But the team, you needed 11 players.
Yes. We Terry Eames had helped us in the fight against, had been very supportive throughout the whole thing. Had turned up at a lot of the big events, and so we turned to him for some advice very early doors. He introduced us to Nick Robinson from the Ryman League, and we got on with sorting out what we had to do. Once we got the senior status and the ground deal done, we thought we would get into a league. We felt we would get into a league, so we organised trials on Wimbledon Common, and that was interesting.
A lot of people, I read.
A lot of people.
A lot of people wanted to play football.
A lot of people wanted to play football, and it was a very funny day. They came from everywhere, absolutely everywhere. They were. One flew in from Finland. We had a Chilean international there, apparently. It might have been an under 21. It was definitely a Finnish under 21. And there were just. We lost count at about 250 people. Jesus. Luckily, loads of coaches turned up to help us. And people just turned up. Terry Burton, our old manager, turned up. Alan Batsford turned up. Sky TV turned up. BBC TV turned up, because they all wanted to see this football club starting from nothing. We begged, stole, and borrowed equipment. We tried to register everybody. So we were walking around with clipboards, writing people's names down. We couldn't compile all the people that had come in. It was impossible. So I got a job of sorting out a whole group of players and writing their names and their contact details down and putting a number on them and everything. And as I'm walking through, and they're all much bigger than me, all the footballers.
Well, yeah.
So I'm looking at a lot of chests going, name, Bill Smith, blah, 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 blah. And then I came I stood in front of this guy, and I didn't look at any of the faces. There was no point. I said name, and he went Russell Smith, and I went, what, the Russell Smith? And he's gone, yeah, your old mate. And I looked up at him, and he was one of my mates that I've been going to football with, since the very early 1970s. And I just said to him, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I used to play at this level. I can still do a turn." I thought I'd come along. I said, "Oh, don't be bloody ridiculous." I said, "Do us a favour. You got a coaching badge, haven't you?" And he's gone, "Yeah." I said, "Take a group of 30 for us and tell if anyone's any good, will you?" And he's gone, "All right then."
He wasn't a young man anymore. Right?
He wasn't a young man anymore. He wasn't a young man anymore. He was brilliant. It was very funny. That was that day was spectacular. That day, spectacular.
And when we look around in the league system, there are a few other, obviously non-league as well, a few other clubs now run by fans. Do you think there should be more clubs that are driven like this? Would that be good for English football, you think?
Yeah, I do think it'd be good for English football, but there's a massive difference with us and other clubs. When we became fans owned, we started from nothing. And we started at level 9, as you say, where the average crowd in the league before we got in it was about 30 to 50.
Really?
Yeah. But it's just above park football what we got into. The requirement for a ground was a concrete path, a metal fence, which could just be a railing, basically, just one pole with concrete posts would do, some floodlights, changing rooms, and most importantly, a bar.
You got to have your priorities straight.
You've got to get your priorities straight. So that's what would qualify you, basically, to. You didn't even have to have turnstiles.
Okay.
It helped if you had turnstiles when you played us, obviously. But yeah, we went to some grounds where there were no turnstiles. It's really quite. So that was the level that we went in at, and therefore our average crowd that first season was 3,000.
You made a lot of clubs a lot of money, I imagine.
We did, and we left a legacy with a lot of clubs. Some, the chairman's obviously had a nice day, had a good day. If you've got 1,000 people paying £7 to get in and then drinking your bar dry and all the rest of it, you've had a good day. You've probably made 10, 12 grand or whatever, which is great. Good luck to them, But there were other grounds that we went to, in particularly Walton Casuals. They built a stand out, it got themselves promoted, and are now established in the Ryman League. And
from some of that money?
Well, it was a direct response from that money. They got lucky. They drew us in 2 cup competitions, and we won the league there the second year. So when we went there, they probably got probably 7,000 people paid to go in there, which was more than they would have got in 2 seasons. So that helped them enormously. Plus they knew how to monetise it. They did very well with it, and they built the little stand with the money they made out of that, and got themselves up the league, and have flourished ever since. Amazing.
We're going to talk about someone you don't like to talk too much about now.
Okay.
Club up north, MK. You just had a game. Wimbledon just played in this weekend gone. Did you go?
No.
Why?
Because a couple of reasons, but first and foremost, we had the game on at Kings Meadow on a beanback, so I could still watch the game. I wouldn't have missed a game. I don't miss the game for, I find it very difficult to miss a game.
Have you ever gone to their ground?
Yes, twice.
Okay.
Twice. The first time I went there was when we played them in the FA Cup, the first time.
Yeah, I was at that one actually, I remember that.
Yeah, that was a horrendous day. For me it was really horrible. Something happened to me that day. It was really weird. We took 14 coaches there and 3,000 fans in all. I booked onto a coach, and we managed to book a coach where it was all our friends. So we were in one group, and we were on the first coach. The tension was really horrendous. It was horrible. Felt really bad. There was no atmosphere on the coach on the way there. It was almost like we were going into battle in a lot of ways, I suppose. It just felt horrible. When we got there were a couple of TV crews that had asked if they could interview me, and I declined, but they were still looking for us. They were trying to film people when they came off, and I know they were actually looking for me. And the weirdest thing happened. I set foot off the coach and I burst into tears. Completely involuntary. I didn't feel like anything like that was going to happen. I've never done that before in my life with anything.
It just seemed so wrong, or?
I don't know. I had no idea. It just welled up. It was all this huge emotion of like, what was I doing here? It felt so wrong being there. Yet I had to go and follow the team. And it was an absolute quandary of how to deal with things. It really just went.
I mean, it's being in the media. They're trying to make it into a derby of some sort, which you don't see like that at all, do you?
Well, no, definitely not a derby. I mean, to me, the definition of a derby are 2 teams that are local. That's the way I see it. So some people don't see that, but that's what I think a derby is. The biggest thing that we've always tried to do is to make sure that they don't define us. We don't run our club around them, and in point of fact, if you look at what's ever been said about them out of our club, we've always treated them with the utmost respect. We've never disrespected them, and we've never talked openly. Our managers have never talked openly about them. We've never said anything disparaging as such, but we can't call them us. That's the best way of putting it.
I mean, when I speak to some fans, basically they don't acknowledge their right to exist. Basically, it's not even like they hate them, but it's more of a they shouldn't be there.
No, I think that is very true. It's never happened before, and they've plugged the loophole now, so it will never happen again. There will never be a franchising of a football club in England again. I believe that will never happen. I hope it never happens, because it's an awful thing to happen to a football club. We can deny their right to exist as much as we like. They do.
Yeah.
They do. We have to try, and the Football League should be working with us to find a way forward, and that's it really. There has to be a way, but I don't think they can ever expect us to call them us.
How do you define the feelings that Wimbledon fans have? Is it hatred, or is it something else towards this franchise?
Yeah, I think to the actual entity, I probably hatred is a good way to put it, but it's more righteous indignation. It's just that there's something was done wrong, and it needs, the boil still needs lancing, and people will have different views of what lances that boil. Some people, to them, it's done and dusted. We've caught them up. we play on the same level as them. Now let football take its course. To others, it would be their utter destruction, and to some, it would be, well, if they drop the Dons and just get on with being Milton Keynes Roundabouts FC or whatever it is.
That's a good name.
They could probably live with that.
The Dons thing hurt.
The Dons thing is definitely an issue. For me personally, the Dons thing is an issue. Yes.
Back to the way that the club is run, fan-owned, fan-run. Will that change ever?
Yeah, it's already changing in a lot of ways. We will always be, in my opinion, fan-owned.
Okay.
I cannot see any way that we won't be fan-owned.
Yeah.
But when you say fan-run, there are people working in the club now that don't support Wimbledon.
Okay.
They don't support Wimbledon.
All right.
They got a job.
Yeah. Okay.
They go to work.
That way it's changing, but the owner structure.
I can't
see that changing.
No.
There was, sometimes you read people saying, "Oh yeah, we need someone a big investor. We'll keep it under 50% or whatever." But
no. To my mind, that is rhubarb. I can tell you about.
So you won't see a big foreign investor coming in with lots of money.
No, I don't see that. You might get a philanthropist come in with a lot of money. You might get a philanthropist come in one day that turns around and says, "Listen, I've got 200 million in the bank. I want to spend 50 million of it and making this football club fantastic.
But I don't want the."
But at the end of the day, yes, I'm going to be involved, and I think there would always be a way to get someone involved. But this is it. Here's the money. It's not a loan. Yeah. It's not an investment. Here's the money. Now we're going to take things forward. That can happen. But when someone's turning around and saying, I'm going to put 50 million in, and for that 50 million I want to be able to do this, that and the other, and if I don't get my way, I'll throw my toys out the pram and run away, that's not an option at our place.
If you look at professional football today with the money in it now,
yeah,
isn't it necessary to get a big investment to make it to the top?
No, I don't think so, because what is making it to the top? How many football teams there are in this country?
Yeah.
Many thousands.
Let me ask you differently. Would you rather stay a league or two below the Premiership, Championship, League One than give in to this?
100%, yes. 100%. Yeah. Once we're back at Plough Lane, if people say to me, and this is my personal opinion, it's not the club's opinion, and some people look at me and say, you're mad and you're not telling the truth, but I am telling the truth. I first started going to Plough Lane the early 1970s. And I loved that place. With my heart and soul, I loved that place. I've never felt more joy in my life than I did when I was at Plough Lane. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm just going to recap what this short version of the story, that Wimbledon is not playing in Borough of Merton, where Wimbledon is. The original club left Plough Lane in '93 and had to ground share with Crystal Palace, Sellers Park, which is not really close either.
91 actually.
91, okay.
Yeah.
Right, 91 moved to played in Croydon, really. A bit far away as well. After rebirth, now at Kings Meadow, just outside the Borough of Merton. But now the club has the proper planning permits and building a new ground very close to the old ground. The ground now in Kingston only holds a bit less than 5,000. The new one will have 10,000 and possibility of becoming 20,000 seater or stand. And how important would that be for the club's chances in the Football League to get this bigger ground and to move back to where you belong?
That changes everything. The whole game plan changes. The minute we get back here, we will have the capacity to attract bigger crowds, making more revenue. We'll have a banqueting hall to be very proud of that will make us a lot of money. We'll have a couple of restaurants that will make us a lot of money. And the prospects for what we are doing are endless once we get there. And that's what will propel us out of League One eventually, into the Championship. Once you're in the Championship, we might go up and we might go down. We got relegated before as Wimbledon FC, and then we got promoted, and then we got relegated, and we got promoted, and we got promoted, and we got promoted, and then we won the FA Cup. Is that possible again? Maybe not. Never say never with Wimbledon.
Right now the club is struggling a bit in the bottom of League One. How much of that is down to money or lack of, because money's going into the new ground?
Well, again, no, not because money going into the ground. We're still coming up with the budget that we would naturally come up with anyway. It's not about the new ground, that's not affecting it. There's a lot of people at Wimbledon don't want to hear the budget thing. They don't want to hear it.
No, you can tell on the forums, people go nuts about it.
Yeah. But a lot of them are wrong, because football's changed from when Harry Bassett created a team with very, very little money. It was what he did. One was a miracle, even by those days' standards, and he managed to attract and put a team together of players that were, in a lot of ways, misfits from other clubs, that had been released from other clubs, that nowadays wouldn't have got as far as they did in the first place. They'd have been booted out when they were kids, probably. Dennis Wise had been released by Southampton and was going to become a painter and decorator when Bassett signed him. Last chance saloon, and Bassett had the right mentality to mould Dennis Wise into the player that he became. So, Vinnie Jones was a hod carrier. And 3 weeks later he scored the winner against Manchester United. That's literally true. Now that sort of thing is not going to happen in this day and age, and I think that people need to get a realism around that. And whilst you can punch above your weight, as we have done every single season since we've been in the Football League for sure, I think that a dose of realism, if it is actually factually proved in football that the teams with the lowest budgets eventually come unstuck every time.
If you look at now, as I said, struggling a bit, did Wimbledon get promoted a bit too quickly?
No, not at all. No, I don't agree with that, and I actually believe we'll be fine this season.
Okay.
If you look at the league table at the moment, you're not going to be as worried as some might think.
But what if relegation did happen? Would you be okay with that and then rebuild from League Two? You wouldn't
totally
panic over that?
No, not in the slightest. No. No, as I say, history repeats. We've had all that before. So you go down, you come back up again. It might not happen the first season, it might not happen the second season, but it'll happen. As sure as eggs is eggs, it'll happen. So, our club is about having a football club. There is this modern day thing that has even crept into our club, which I don't like, but I think we're slightly better than most, where everyone just wants jam today. They want instant success, and they will not hear anything else other than instant success. And for the people that have the argument about the budget and so on, so those are the same people, a lot of them, that are saying, well, we need to get rid of our manager and so on and so on. Right. Well, they would have got rid of Bassett the first time he got relegated. The first time, never mind the second time, they would have got rid of him. And it's just like, well, that would have stopped the greatest story in football. The team that no team has Man City played Liverpool on Sunday, and if Man City had beaten Liverpool, they would have been the first team since 1986-87 to have won at Liverpool, at Man United and at Chelsea. Right. Well, the last team to do that was Wimbledon in 1986-7. But not only did we beat those three teams on their own grounds, we also beat Tottenham at White Hart Lane that year. And it will be a century before that happens again.
So people that too, basically with the instant success, they're looking at the likes of Chelsea and all. People
I don't think they're looking at Chelsea. They just want us to for some very strange reason, they think that we've got a God-given right to produce players and make players perform way above their pay grade. Now, there are bits of it I want to see that. There's nobody wants to see that more than I do, and more than everyone else on the board does. But it's a crazy situation. We cannot afford players that are as good as some other clubs have got. So we have to take a chance on players, and when you look at our history of producing players as well, at this level, it's been phenomenal, because when we took Tom Elliott, he wasn't doing very well. When we took Lyle Taylor, he wasn't doing very well. We've turned those players around, and they've now got proper careers in football. Tom Elliott has gone to Millwall, and he's doing very nicely, thank you very much. Lyle Taylor is a leading goal scorer who will attract a lot of attention from now on. So he's got a few seasons where he can earn top dollar. And that's what we've done, and I think the manager's done an amazing job, and he's unearthed a lot of good players on very little. We have to take a chance with people. We always have done. It's the same thing as we've always done.
And all this build on an idea in the back room of your old business. I hope it keeps going the way it's going. Ivor Heller, thank you so much for taking time.
Absolute pleasure, anytime.
back with Anthony and Tracy now. So if we look at the club structure, would you want the club to stay on fans' hands for whatever price there might be, even if the price is not progressing as far as you might be able to do if some rich man from America came along?
I prefer it to stay as fans club, because we've had it all before. We've been sold down the river, so I'd much prefer to stay at this level and stay a fans owned club.
100%. When you've been through what we've been through as a football club, you know the pitfalls. At the very top level, there's people coming into the game with millions and billions of pounds, and when they leave, the club is left as an empty shell. Pompey, Leeds, Man City, they've all been through administration. Palace, how many times have they been in administration? Their fans don't learn. All they want to know is about the Premiership. It's like football never started. Before the Premiership, it's like football didn't exist. And there will be a glass ceiling. I know, it won't happen again what Wimbledon done, going through on a tight budget. However, the pitfalls of not having a club, because you put it in the hands of one person who can play with it like a toy, is too much of a risk.
How far do you think a club like Wimbledon can make it with the new ground and the possible earnings of that? How far? Well, what's realistic here?
So, at New Plough Lane, you've got to be looking at Championship. And then once you're in the Championship, it is possible. I mean, I don't want to quote Bournemouth as an example. They've got a small ground.
It's only 14,000.
Yeah. However, people forget that they've got a Russian billionaire behind them.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
And all right, compared to United, Chelsea, Liverpool, yeah, it is a budget. Same as Leicester. Like that's a budget, but it's still.
Leicester is not a poor club as it was made out to be.
They've got the Thai billionaire. Bournemouth got the Russian billionaire, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not the same, but the fact is they've still done it on a 14,000 attendance. So it's not that you can never get to the Premiership. Hard work will always override. If it was just done on attendances and money, you could predict the league table, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? So you can't write off Wimbledon. That's the only thing I'd ever say. You can never write off Wimbledon. But yeah, you'd be looking at a solid Championship club.
Can never write off Wimbledon. We're going to be that be the last words of this program. See what happens, and I'll be back as often as I can. And that is it for this week. We're back next week.